I want to share with you what we have seen our top MSPs doing and have done to add an average of 2 million in new revenue. That's 2 million in new revenue, most of it recurring, not all of it. Some of it was projects, and added over $600,000 in net profits. And that's not just their net profit. That was the in addition to, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And these were not clients that were large MSPs that were already doing 10, 20, 30 million. These, I'm talking about MSPs that ranged in the $1 million mark to $3 million mark and have doubled their business over the pandemic. Two in particular I can think of are in the New York, New Jersey area that was shut down very, very tight, but they were all over the country. And so I would encourage you guys, if you have questions or just even comments, I've got the attendee chat here up. I'm looking at it. Please, fire away your questions. I want to know how I can be of most use for you today. I prize your attention and your time, and I want to make this worth your while. So obviously, anything that you want clarification on, please ask me, because I'm here to work for you guys today. So specifically what we're going to cover is I'm going to share with you some industry growth metrics and trends from 2020 to 2021, actually even back as far as 2019. And so that way you can see how you stack up against your peers. I'm going to share with you what both Marcus Lemonis and Kevin O'Leary said MSPs should be doing right now to secure profitable new customers and growth. Like I said, we just had our big annual event. They were two keynote speakers. I know Kevin really well. I've worked with him on a number of occasions. This is the second time I've worked with Marcus Lemonis, and these guys love numbers. So I print out all the data sheets and numbers on metrics and for our members, and I shared that with them and combed over that with them before they presented. And so they know the business model. They know the market really well. O'Leary especially is an investor in tech companies. That's why he even bothers to come to events. He doesn't need the money anymore, but he does this. And he works with me because he invests in tech companies, and it's a sector he's very interested in. So what they had to say, I think, was extremely very exciting and eye-opening as well. What you should be doing to market your business this year so that you attract the most desirable clients in your marketplace and eliminate that fee resistance if you've ever had that before. I'm sure if you've been selling for more than 5 minutes, you've dealt with that more than once. And then, of course, answer any questions you have about marketing, social media, selling, closing IT service sales. All right. So just a quick question. If this is the first time you've ever heard me speak, give me a thumbs up. You know, the little emoji things. Maybe some of you could, wow, oh my goodness. You see, Mark, I like to think I'm more famous than that. Look at that. I am like, there's all these people who've never heard. Wow. Okay. I need to do some marketing. So, all right. So really brief, just so for those of you who've never heard of me before and thinking, who the heck is this redheaded chick? I started working with IT firms back in 2002. And even prior to that, I was in sales and I sold for a company called CGI Systems. Some of you might have heard CGI Systems. But since starting my consulting firm, I've worked with well over 10,000 VARs, MSPs, IT service companies. You know, the majority of my clients are under 10 million in revenue, although I do have some that are, in the 30 and $40 million range. And of course, we work with companies like Intermedia and other channel companies like Datto and Kaseya and every cyber company. And what I do is I specialize in helping them implement strategic and media agnostic sales and marketing systems to get more and better quality clients. It's a very unique approach that I take because I'm not tied to any one media. I'm not going to sit here and say you have to do pay-per-click or you got to do Facebook ads or you have to do social SEO marketing. We teach our clients every kind of strategy, and we really base it in things like really good direct response marketing principles, list building, differentiation, trust-based marketing and sales strategies. So it's not just, slapping together some campaigns and media. We take a very strategic approach. Like I mentioned, we run the largest peer group in our industry. We have 593 members. We have actually, today, well over 5,400 active clients. It's actually 6,000. I need to update that are active, meaning, I've worked with well over 10,000, but over 20 years, people go out of business, they sell their company, they merge. So today we're well over 6,000 active clients, but the peer groups are ones that meet on a weekly basis. And we collect data from them on sales and marketing metrics, profitability, sales, growth, trends, et cetera, which is what I'm going to share with you is based on what we're seeing from those reported metrics and numbers that we track. The thing that I am most proud of is that we have more documented client success stories than any other marketing consultant in this industry. And so that, again, what I'm going to share with you is not based on theory. It is based on me working in the trenches with quite a large group of MSPs, VARs, and they sell all the gamut of IT support and services, even application development, and of course, communication systems, not just phone systems anymore, as we all know. I mean, we sell, it's more of a communication platform. So we'll talk about all that. And one quick thing, we are going to be giving you some freebies like the PowerPoint presentation, some essays from the people who generated over 2 million, how they did that. I'm going to give you that, as well as a free one-on-one consultation if you want to do that, or if you just want to download the material, that's fine as well. That's going to be up there on that website you're seeing, toolkitlive.com/Intermedia21. So everything, I've put together some free resources that will help you after this webinar to implement. So I just wanted to mention that in case you can't stay to the very end. All right. So one of the things I want to answer is, did MSPs grow in 2020? I don't know where 2020 went on the slide deck. I promise you it was there, but that's what it should say. Did MSPs grow in 2020? All right. And so let me share with you what we saw. We took averages from our highest level members and we looked at 2020 versus 2019. Okay. So keep in mind, our typical client is an MSP and they're doing about 2 million in revenue, but they range anywhere from 1 million to 10 million in sales. Okay. So in 2020, appointments with new clients was down 15%. Now, what you got to also know is when most of my clients in 2019, because of the Windows end of life, they were ripping into 2019. That when they came into 2020, they were all on fire. They were doing upgrades, replacements. They were so busy. They didn't even need to do marketing. And then of course, COVID hit and everything went from like on fire with opportunity to everybody holding on to their money. And I know I had a lot of clients who not only lost projects, like people were saying, man, I had the deal signed. I had this contract for a $50,000, $100,000 upgrade and project, and it all just dried up instantly. I mean, just the money wasn't there. And a lot of people were dealing with clients that weren't paying the bills either. So, another thing that happened is a lot of our MSPs saw their customers coming in going, hey, money's kind of tight. Can you give me a discount? Can I not pay you for a month? Can I reduce the services I'm getting? So they were dealing with all of that in 2020. But despite all of that, and obviously losing clients, because some people just went out of business, so they lost clients, no fault of their own. So despite that, their gross revenue was up on average by 10%. Their MRR, managed recurring revenue, was up 17%. Profits, EBITDA, was up 17%. And the number of active clients went up, which is crazy because appointments with new clients was down. So basically the other thing that happened was they got a lot of people new clients just came screaming in ready to buy because their current IT company was out of business, unresponsive. In some cases, the MSPs out there, the smaller ones, got crushed by the demand because in a matter of weeks, they had all their clients coming to them going, we need to be remote. We need phone systems. We need security. We need to be able to, we need laptops. We're being forced to shut down and you guys have to help us get remote. And a lot of these small guys couldn't handle it. So they lost those customers because everybody came to them at once. So despite that, COVID was a tough year for many companies in many regards. For my clients, they actually did pretty well. And I should also share with you, I would guarantee, this is very hard to prove, but I would be willing to make a really good natured bet that my database is the most pristine and accurate in the industry because I have a team of people whose full-time job, I've got 3 people who are dedicated to this, and then everybody else is contributing, but they're dedicated to updating, cleaning our list. So that they add new MSPs. If you go out of business and so forth, we update. We're not just emailing people, we're calling people. We are mailing people. So like if mail comes back, undeliverable, we look their address up and verify it. But I can tell you this, we saw a 500% increase in MSPs going out of business. And the ones that went out of business had a couple things in common. One was that they were all sub $500,000 in revenue. So they were all the small guys. Number 2, they were very light on recurring revenue. So they were almost all doing projects and break fix work. None of them had like really good recurring revenue contracts in place. Many of them were dealing with home users. So the 500% increase of going out of business, obviously was not very good, but that's what we saw. But despite that, and again, I'm talking about your general industry because we do prospecting to this industry and we continue to do marketing all through 2020. And we just saw a lot of them rolling up and saying, I'm closing my doors, going out of business. So that was a 500% increase. Now, what's really cool is my very top clients, This was their average in 1 year. They added an average increase of $2,133,428 in sales. They had a $646,000 increase in net profits. That's not just net profit. Many of them made over $1 million net in addition to taking a salary. And they saw an average increase of $115,000 in managed recurring revenue. And again, I put their stories up on that website. So when you opt in for the consultation, you'll get a link and you can download their essays and they'll get into more detail on how they did it, more so than I can even on this webinar. And so what they did is the very same thing that Marcus Lemonis and Kevin O'Leary agreed on when they spoke at my events. And what really fueled it was IT became far more essential, as we all know, during the shutdowns, which fueled their growth. So the fact that there was a bunch of small guys going out of business, and the fact that not everybody, but most of America had to send their workers home for a period of time, and try to still conduct business in some way, spending on tech, particularly in the area of cybersecurity and remote workforce solutions, went up. And both Kevin O'Leary and Marcus Lemonis said that IT is the single largest expenditure and increase in budget in their companies. Now, Marcus Lemonis is the CEO of Camping World and Good Sam. So some of you might be familiar with that. He's also called the Prophet. You know, if you've seen the show on NBC, where he goes in and he rescues failing businesses. So he actually invests in a lot of small businesses as well. So he's not just running a couple $1 billion companies. He's investing in small business. And O'Leary, as you know, Shark Tank Plus, he has O'Leary Funds. He's got his investment firm. And, you know, he also invests in a lot of small businesses across the board. He said across the board, everybody has bigger budgets and they're asking for bigger budgets from their investors to spend it on tech. And it's specifically in the area of remote workforce solutions and cybersecurity. And they said there's going to be no slowing down, which is why, you know, I was mentioning O'Leary said to the audience, he's like, guys, if you don't double your business next year, you're an idiot. And if you know O'Leary, I mean, he's actually a super nice guy. I mean, he plays the little bit of the a-hole, a little bit on Shark Tank. He definitely plays it up, but he's absolutely I've worked with all the sharks and he's the best. He's the easiest to work with by far. Most down to earth, just, you know, very respectful, fun to work with, does what he says what he does and does it, you know, but he doesn't mince words. And so he really meant that. The other thing that they both said is marketing your services for new client acquisition is the single most important thing you should focus on right now. And again, the reasons for that is most MSPs, maybe at least for my clients, you guys don't lose clients. Like once you get a client under a contract, unless you lose them to a merger or acquisition, for the most part, you keep clients for a very, very long time. You don't have high churn. And so because you don't have high churn, because you keep them for a long time, and because budgets are being increased right now for remote workforce and cybersecurity, and remote workforce, of course, is communication platforms, for all of those reasons, they're saying now more than ever, you better be, you know, putting your pedal to the metal and doing marketing hot and heavy, because this is a huge opportunity. And if you don't jump on it, other people will, because this business is going to go somewhere. These budgets are going to go in somebody's pocket. And if you're sitting around and you're not doing marketing and you're not heavily prospecting and not just that, even selling into your existing client base, which we're going to talk about, you know, then you're crazy. You're missing out on a huge, huge opportunity. And like I said, not everyone had the kind of success that I'm talking about, and not everybody will. Again, we saw a 500% increase in small firms closing their doors. And the reason they didn't survive was for a couple reasons, but the biggest one is they had no business strength. So one of the things that I talk about all the time is you want to build business strength, not just sales. And we're going to talk about ways to build strength. But why they went out of business is they had, again, no little or no recurring revenue. So they were all break, fix, and projects. So again, if you're looking at your client base and you are heavy on break, fix, and projects, and you don't have at least 70 to 80% of your revenue in a recurring model, you're in a very precarious situation, because the MSPs that survived and thrived, they were very heavily, of course, on recurring revenue. The other thing, number two, they had no reliable money-getting marketing systems in place outside of referrals. So when COVID hits, everybody's just trying to survive. Nobody was out there like trying to refer you, right? They were just trying to keep their business afloat. And because they didn't have a list, they had no unconverted leads. They had no way of knowing how to do marketing. A lot of them didn't even have a sales team or a marketing team. Once some of that business dried up, they couldn't quickly replace it. And so that's, again, if you don't have what we call marketing oil wells, which are multiple ways of getting a client on a consistent basis, you are in a very dangerous, precarious situation. You got to have 2 to 3 reliable ways to get a customer in the door and generate sales. It's part of having a strength in your business. They were also, all the ones that failed and went out of business, they didn't have a productive list of prospects because, again, they weren't doing any marketing. And one of the concepts I teach is you want to build a farm of unconverted leads, of these future clients, of these prospects, because you can always, it's just like a garden. You can't go out and just say, well, I'm going to plant a carrot today and tomorrow I'm going to eat it. Like, you have to develop and cultivate your garden. And that's the same with your prospect list. And that's ongoing. It's not start, stop, or do it when you feel like it, or do it when you have time, or when you get around to it, or when you're less busy. If you're not doing marketing on an ongoing basis, just like your garden, you're going to get overgrown with weeds, and you're going to have weeds, not vegetables growing, right? Number 4, the other thing was they didn't have 3 months of retained earnings or savings set aside for an emergency. Sorry, Kim, was that you? Or did you want to comment? Sorry, I thought I heard somebody. So they didn't have that retained earnings, which is another thing you want to think about when you're building strength. And number 5, they had a lot of personal and professional debt. And again, this all ties in with, they don't do marketing, so they don't generate a lot of money. They don't generate profits, and therefore their debt piles up, and they don't have money to put aside for retained earnings. And because of that, then they won't spend money on marketing. So it's like this never ending downward spiral that they get themselves in. So guys, if you have any questions, post questions or thoughts. Again, I'm going to keep looking at this, but, so what did the winners do? Okay. So what did the people do who generated 2 million plus in revenue and over 646,000 in net profit? What did they do? And what are they continuing to do right now today and into this future year? Well, there was 3 key things. The first thing is they focused heavily on selling to existing clients and selling additional services. So they went back and sold them upgraded security solutions, compliance, voice over IP, managed services, etc. Now and fuel referrals. Now, so they did get some referrals because they were, in with their clients, and their clients are going, hey, my friend's business is suffering right now. They need to work remote. Can you help them? So that was something that they promoted out very heavily. The third thing is they focused on selling secure remote workforce solutions, obviously. And this is going to thrive into 2021 because a lot of people put some Band-Aid solution in place. Like, they sent everybody home with their cell phone and said, they let the phones go to voicemail, and they sent everyone home and just said, work from your home Wi-Fi on your kid's laptop, and now they're starting to realize that they can't sustain that. And so now that the economy's opening up, and now that money's flowing again, they're going, okay, we need to put something in place so that if an emergency like this happens again, we could all work remote and be secure. So those budgets are now opening up. And the third thing they did is they doubled their marketing efforts. And this is something, again, I saw a lot of people, when COVID hit, a lot of people froze in their tracks and they stopped all marketing. If they were doing trade shows and events, that immediately went away. But they stopped doing any kind of prospecting because they didn't know what to do, or they were just afraid, like, maybe we shouldn't be doing marketing right now. But the clients of mine who succeeded, they still did marketing. They just changed their approach. And the way they changed their approach is they focused on EDR marketing, educational direct response, which is what I teach. I've done other webinars for Intermedia. You could go back, and I think the last one I did was specifically on this topic. They went back and they did webinars, and they did videos, and they did social media posts, and they were more proactive in telemarketing and calling people. Even though people weren't in their office, they're still picking up their voicemails, right? So they did this promotional outreach, but it was changed in the sense of saying, hey, we're here, we're open, we're successful, we're able to handle your situation. And if you are stuck, not able to work from home, we're here for you. And then they would do webinars on, how to work remote from home securely. Another strategy that they used that was very successful is I told them to reach out to their community, reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, reach out to associations in their area, and offer to do free educational webinars on how to get employees to work remote. And they did. And by doing that, they generated leads. They generated opportunities. They had people coming in screaming. One of my, just saying, help me. And we had one of my clients, well, not actually one, but I should say several, because I can think of one guy who did this, but a lot of them did this. Is they went to, like, for example, they went to the Chamber of Commerce and they said, look, if anybody needs emergency IT support, we're available and we're giving it away for free on a limited basis, until we can't help people anymore. But if you want us to, just help you get to work remote for free, we'll give you like a free consultation. And they gave them a couple free hours of support. And that brought in clients out of the woodwork. Now they had to do a little work for free, but those people are now paying contracts. They went out to in industry associations. I've got a client, Jim Gast, who is SpliceNet, and all he does is IT support for attorneys. Well, he did a whole movement, No Lawyer Left Behind, which is kind of funny. And he offered to any attorney that was struggling, he said, I'll get you to be able to work from home remote for free. And he did a big push on social media and he picked up a ton of clients off that. So they still did marketing. They just changed the offer, the approach, and they did phenomenal with it, right? So, but if you really want to know the real secret to their success is they had already been doing a lot of marketing prior to the shutdowns. And so not only were they able to withstand losses, but they capitalized on the opportunities that became available because they had good lists. They went even to their unconverted leads and said, hey, just a simple email. We're open. We're available. If you find you can't work remote or you need emergency IT support, we're here. I mean, it wasn't like a fancy message, but because they had that list and they had that relationship and they had already been doing marketing, all those opportunities just started popping like crazy because they had done the work in advance. Okay. So, the other thing, whoops, wait a minute. I clicked on that too fast. So like I mentioned, the thing you want to think about is you want to build strength in your business, not just sales. Mark, I know I wanted you to comment on that slide 14, but if it's okay with you, I'll come back to you on that when we get to where do we start? Is that cool with you, Mark?
Absolutely. Keep on rolling.
Okay. Because I know you guys have some things to help your partners right now that I 100% agree with, that they should be focusing on. So you want to build business strength, not just sales. And how do you do that? Well, for starters, you want to make sure that you have enough recurring gross margin, not just revenue, but gross margin to cover your nut. So that's I call it the nut. It's 100% of your operating expenses and salary. So everything you sell, you want to have a recurring element to it. And you want to be to a point where when you start the month, you have your operating expenses basically covered, right? And then any projects or new clients, that's just gravy. And then you want to make sure you're fully capitalized. And what I mean by that is you have 3 to 4 months of operating capital saved for emergency. The other thing you should be doing is generating at least 10% pre-tax profit. And that's after paying yourself a fair market salary as the owner of the company. So no paying yourself $60,000 a year and taking the rest in dividends. That's not a fair market salary. You want to pay yourself the appropriate salary for the job you're doing. So it's going to be different if you're running a $500,000 year MSP versus if you're running a $50 million year, obviously. But you want to make sure that you have that. You want to have at least 15 to 20% year over year growth. 10% in this industry is basically standing still. So we saw last year that, my clients grew an average of 10%. Prior to that, the industry as a whole was growing at 10%. So if you grow 10%, you're basically standing still. My average client grows 18% year over year. Okay, 20% is considered a gazelle-like growth. So a gazelle is a company that is doing at least $1 million in revenue and has 20% year over year growth for at least 4 years, consecutive years. Okay, so that tells you you're doing this right. And by doing that, you can provide your most productive employees upward career growth and earning potential to keep them, because the good ones, if you don't give them that, they're going to leave and you're going to be stuck with the duds. So, nobody thinks about this, but growing your organization, providing those opportunities for them to earn more money and advance in their careers, that's how you attract and keep good people. That's the secret, right? I mean, now there's a little more to it, but that's really what you want to do. You also want to make sure you diversify your revenue so that no one client represents more than 10% of your total revenue. Again, the clients that survived and thrived are the ones that didn't have all of their revenue tied up in like one company, and then that company gets acquired and it goes away. And I see that happening all the time. And again, 75% or more revenue coming from recurring contracts, not just projects. So I see Rick saying profit first. You could do profit first. That's Mike Michalowicz is a real good friend of mine. I've had him on my stage multiple times. But you just got to make sure that this is a healthy company, a healthy MSP. So this is how you know if your business is succeeding or not, or where you're weak and you need to build strength. Now, a lot of this is tied to marketing, because getting the right clients and being able to do sales and marketing to a way where you can show the value and attract the highest quality clients are the ones that allow you to charge sufficient to make the profit you need and are willing to pay for recurring services and will allow you to grow. So all this is tied into marketing. It's not just marketing, but it is very closely tied to it. So I know that the ways that you're going to build strength, the 7 ways that you're going to build strength is, again, this kind of saying it in a different way. Ensure everything you sell has a recurring revenue. Make sure you charge enough to secure sufficient profits. Guys, you want to be somewhere in the 47 to 55% gross margin. If you're not, you need to raise your prices before you start doing client acquisition. Because if your gross margin is too low and you do marketing and you get more clients at a bad price point, all you're doing is making a bad situation worse. Get rid of all the ones in your business. So that would be one client or one employee, one key employee. You want to get rid of all those ones. Create systems and processes on everything critical that reoccurs. Marketing is one of the things that reoccurs. You also want to build your money team. Sorry, I think I lost my audio there. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Okay, good. Everyone's like, okay, got it. All right. Money team being, your sales and marketing team, which is your gas pedal, not just your operations, which is overhead and cost. And I'm not saying don't hire techs and don't hire admins and so forth, but I'm saying you got to balance that out with your money team. You got to build a list and the strength of your relationship with it. That's drip marketing, that's prospecting. And you want to set up 3 to 5 marketing oil wells so you're consistently bringing in those new clients. So if you guys are asking yourselves, like, where the heck do I start then? So this is all good, but where do I go from now? What I would suggest is step 1, go back to existing clients. There is opportunity there. I promise you. You want to conduct QBRs or TBRs every quarter or twice a year, if appropriate, because some clients, you just, depending on the client, if they're really small, twice a year might be fine. If they're a larger client, a quarterly business review, and you're going in, you're sitting down with them and you're reviewing their cybersecurity. You're reviewing where they're growing, where they need help, where, you're also helping them with their budget. Just like, if you don't want to just be the guy who's like the Mr. Fix-It that comes in and just sells something, right? You want to be the consultant. Now, part of being that consultant to your clients is you got to sit down and go, where are you growing? What's happening? Who are you hiring? Are you acquiring new companies? Are you opening new locations? Because all of those things have a technology component to it. And you got to help them put together a budget. And you got to help them say, okay, you see all this aging equipment? We need to have a plan in place so we transition off of this aging equipment so it doesn't hit you all at once. We got to have a plan for that. That's what you do in these QBRs. If they're not on a managed agreement, get them on one. Cross-sell other solutions. Upsell advanced cybersecurity protections, employee training, et cetera, and ask for referrals. Now, Mark, this is where I think you want to chime in, right? Because I think you have some you guys have some solutions, right? That a lot of these guys have aging legacy systems and there's opportunity.
Yep, exactly. So, what we've been seeing with many of our partners and that have especially been around for a little bit is a lot of VARs and MSPs out there have these large bases of, at the time, great customers, but a lot of on-premise PBX phone systems, which are now, kind of legacy systems. And so what we've been doing is really helping our partners with that transition of, okay, to Robin's point, it's time to upgrade. There's this new way of doing business across any industry, this new way of flexible communication, whether it's at home, in the office, or a hybrid between the two. And so it's moving those legacy on-prem customers over to unified communications, with Intermedia. So either Unite or under private label Elevate. And so if a main benefit, which Robin will likely talk about more, is, it's going from the project-based to the recurring revenue model. So that's, incoming revenue per month. But to help kind of stimulate that transition, if you haven't heard of it yet, we recently launched what's called the frictionless cloud migration rebate. So we're giving our partners $25 per seat that you move over from an existing on-prem system over to Intermedia's Unite or Elevate communication system. It's a 10-seat minimum deal move to get that $25 per seat. But I just want to give a quick little shout out to that. A lot of partners are taking advantage of it, and it's been stimulating a lot of new business. So in the follow-up to this webinar, I'll include a link to that with a lot more information, but just want to give a quick reminder in case anyone on the call hasn't heard of that yet.
Yeah, I mean, guys, look, bottom line, if you're not going to your customers and saying, let's talk about this, somebody else is going to go talk to them about it. And you're going to lose that opportunity. You need to get in there now and say, look, let's talk about what we're going to do to move away from this legacy system and put a plan in place. Even if the plan is, okay, we're not going to do it this quarter, we're going to do it in Q4. Well, fine. But you got to have that on the radar for them. You got to help them put that in their budgets. You got to help them think through this, and not just, hey, let's upgrade a phone system, but let's look at the entire platform you use to communicate with your customers and your prospects. Because, we're living in a Zoom world now. We're living in an entirely different work from home, video conferencing, Zoom type world. And you've got to help modernize them, because that's what customers are going to start expecting. And if they're behind the times, they're just not going to be as competitive. They're going to lose opportunities. And you have to be the one that goes in and talks to them about this, because they don't know. And you might think, oh, I've already talked to them about it. They're cheap. Talk to them about it again. Times change. Situations change all the time. This is why I'm saying you got to do those quarterly business reviews. You got to bring this up. You got to be their chief information officer, the chief technology officer. That's part of your job. And so if you're not doing this, you're not only are you doing a grave disservice, I think, to your customers, but you're losing out on those opportunities, and you don't want to do that. So start here. Okay. And there's two main reasons why you want to do this. One is, I have never met an MSP that couldn't generate more sales from existing clients. Everybody tells me, oh, you don't understand. I've already talked to them about it. They're cheap. They're tight. They won't spend the money about this. You don't know that guy, right? Just send an email. Just do this. All right. And every single time I get some client, an MSP, who comes to me to send out an email, to send out a promotion of some kind, I'm telling you, we generate sales. Because selling does not happen where a client will call you up and say, I got a big pile of money. I don't know what to do with it. Do you have anything I could buy? Unless you go there and sell them on this, they're not just going to come to you and knock on your door and say, can I write you a check? All right. So you got to go in there and sell it. And the other reason you want to think about this is because you want to maximize the revenue, the profitability from every single customer. Any successful business that I know that grows, they're getting it not by just new customer acquisition. They're getting it by going deeper with existing clients, because the more clients you need to hit any income goal, any revenue goal, the more complicated and stressful and problem riddled your business becomes. So if you want to add $1 million in sales to your business, if you charge a client $300 per month, you need 278 clients to make that happen, which 278 clients, for a lot of you, I think you would agree, is a pretty big monster number. If we slide it up, if we can get them to spend $500 per month because we sell them additional services and communication platform and managed services and advanced cyber protection, now we only need 167. If we get them up to 1,000, it's 83. At $5,000 per month, we only need 17 clients. And at 10,000 per month, we only need 8. So a good question you should sit down and really think about is, how do you double sales in your organization without adding a single new client? And now let me give you another tidbit. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that having 278 clients is bad. I mean, there might be a case where what you're selling them, that's completely appropriate. But if you like if I could I'd much rather find 8 clients to spend 10 grand a month than try and onboard, find, prospect, close, customer service, 278. The natural question is, who would be able to write me a $10,000 per month check? And it's a rounding error. See, as soon as you say that, all of a sudden now you're starting to think strategically about marketing and getting the right customer, not just going out and let's just post some stuff on Facebook and see who shows up. Or let's just do SEO and maybe we hope and pray that someone who can write us a $10,000 a month check will show up. See, this is where what I teach is all about direct marketing and targeting those customers specifically that you want. All right. Now, the second thing I would do is go back to any unconverted leads that you have. So that's prospects that you've met with in the past. Maybe it's a referral. Maybe it was somebody you met at a trade show. Maybe it's somebody you went all the way to get to a proposal and they didn't buy. And just come up with a new offer. And ideally, you want to talk about things that cut costs, that reduce risk, that increase productivity and increase revenue, because that's what people care about. And guess what? That's what the Intermedia company, their products and services align perfectly with all of these things, right? They help cut costs. They reduce the risk, because if they got to get shut down again and they can't communicate with their customers, that's a risk. It helps increase productivity, efficiency. And of course, if they are using the communication platform, right, it absolutely should increase sales because they're talking to more customers and not losing them. So another template that I'm going to post up for you guys and give you guys is this one. Now, this is a campaign. We call it the Closer Look campaign. So the headline was, if someone had a way to cut IT costs while increasing security, performance, and efficiency, wouldn't you want them to tell you about it? And all this was around due to the economic crisis we're in, we've suddenly been plunged into, thanks to COVID-19, everybody's looking for finding ways to cut costs. And so the thing you might think immediately is, hey, wait a minute, I'm not the cheapest. I don't want to go in there and try and cut costs. But that's not what the letter, when you read the letter, you're going to see what we've done is we've made the argument that there's a good chance you're paying $1,000. Let's say you're paying $1,000 a month for IT support, but you're only getting $500 a month in service. So even if you're paying more, you could be getting more value. So that's what this letter does. But we play off how do we cut your IT costs while increasing performance, efficiency, security. And again, the argument that we're making is, hey, we're not saying we're going to come in, if you're paying $1,000, we're going to charge you $800. We're saying you're paying $1,000 and you're getting $300 of service. So we're going to actually come in and be more efficient, and we're going to lower your total cost of ownership, which is different than what you're paying. Okay. So we put this letter work like gangbusters. This is one of my clients, Eric Shore from Future Tech. Just this campaign alone generated 86 leads for him, 7 appointments, and so far $52,000 in sales. And they're still working through this letter. As you can see, this letter went out around July 5th of last year. So they've inevitably closed more of those opportunities in the meantime. But this is an example of the type of marketing communication that you want to do right now, and go back to existing client, or even existing clients, but unconverted leads with that. And then step 3, double down on prospecting. Now the rules for weekly prospecting, and I think you should be prospecting every single week, is it's got to happen weekly. And so trade shows, speaking engagements, ads and publications, endorsed mailings, JV promotions, they're great, but you still want to have a weekly prospecting marketing oil well that you implement. Okay. Now I teach my clients all ways of doing that. Some ways there's direct mail with telemarketing. In other ways, we're running Facebook ads. In some ways, some of them are doing pay-per-click, but they have that weekly outgoing prospecting effort. And it's got to be direct. It can't be passive. Because search engine optimization, the problem is we got to wait for somebody to search, to show up, right? Newsletters, blog posts, and social media posts, they're great, but they're passive. They're drip marketing, all right? And that doesn't count towards weekly prospecting. The other thing I'd recommend is you have a multimedia component. So for example, don't just do email, or don't just do LinkedIn. Don't just do one postcard. You want to have multiple media so that you have the greatest chance of reaching those sweet spot prospects that you want. And it's got to have a compelling offer that leads to a sales event. So we, in the campaign that I'm going to share with you guys, you're going to see we're trying to quote unquote sell them. I say sell them because we're, influencing, we're building the value of getting on a 10-minute call and discussing how that my clients can help them. All right. Because if we just said, if all you did was one campaign really well to 25 prospects a week, in a year, you'd have a list of 1,300 qualified prospects. You'd have at least 13 to 26 appointments if you got a 1% to 2% response rate, which is, my clients get that all the time. And you'd have 3 to 7 new, assuming you only close 25%. But even more important, you are now building that list. You're now building awareness in your area. You're getting market intelligence. You're building your future pipeline of future clients. So again, most people don't do weekly prospecting. They just run a campaign here or there when they get around to it or when they get desperate. You want to put in place weekly prospecting, list building, list cleaning, generating offers, and using various different media. And again, I would recommend you go back. I did a webinar on EDR marketing, educational direct response. That was the last webinar I did with Intermedia, the folks here. And so I'm sure, Mark, you can post that again. I saw one person asking for that. So if you want to know how that all works, then I would watch that session. Okay. Now, the only marketing methods that aren't as productive right now that I've had my clients use in the past, they're starting to come back, would be door-to-door canvassing. Believe it or not, I have clients that have generated $500,000 in sales doing canvassing. And I know it sounds crazy, and I can't even take credit for it. I had a client one time who just thought, what the heck, I'm going to try and do this, and hired a college kid to go door to door and literally drop off like a postcard with a get out of computer trouble free voucher on it, where the first couple hours of support were free, and generated $500,000 in sales off of doing just that. So that's what convinced me, hey, canvassing actually can work. So right now, obviously people might not be happy that you're walking in. Now it depends on the state you're in. Right now I'm in Florida, and Florida's wide open, and nobody's worried about it. And you might be in a different state. So you got to use that based on your area. Trade shows in certain states, they're starting to come back. Networking events, same thing. They're starting to come back, and seminars are starting to come back. But everything else, direct mail, telemarketing, LinkedIn, Facebook ads, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, everything is working as well as it was before the shutdowns, or even better, right? So everything's working as well. And maybe it might be delivering a little bit suppressed results in certain areas. Like, again, if you're in New York City or New Jersey, or you're in an area that's still shut down, you might not see as big a bump from direct mail or telemarketing. But I promise you, it's still working in areas that were shut down, in areas that, you would say, quote unquote, nobody is answering the phone. All right. So get back to marketing because it is working. So with that, I'll just leave you. I'll answer any questions. Remember, we have additional support for free. If you go to that Intermedia 21, so toolkitlive.com/Intermedia 21, the PowerPoint will give you that. The essays from my 5 top clients that generated over 2 million in revenue, what they did, how they did it, I'll give you that. Plus a lot of other resources you're seeing here, like your IT sales playbook, what it should contain, how to overcome, a number of objections and problems you have with marketing, what you should budget for marketing. So all that's going to be free to you guys. So Mark, what questions, is there anything else you want to add or questions we need to answer?
Yeah, no, this is great. And just to kind of hitting on that and a couple questions that have come in. So yes, we'll be sending a follow-up email after this webinar that includes the recording, a link to the deck, and also a link to this URL that Robin has here to all these assets, as well as, we launched a new marketing automation platform, a whole new sales and marketing hub. So if anyone hasn't heard of that, we're transitioning away from the legacy sales portal and over to what's called Intermedia All Access. So I'll also include a link to that in the follow-up email, so you have all the Intermedia specific marketing assets and campaigns around this entire concept.
Okay.
So with that, yeah, Robin, we've got a few questions that have come in. And if you don't mind, I can just kind of read them off to you.
Sure, that'd be great. Mm-hmm.
So there are two that I think are kind of tied together. It goes back to an earlier part of the presentation, and it's just a request to repeat and kind of reiterate the concept of a gazelle and that more successful company, and then also to drill back down into the idea of getting rid of the ones, what that really means again.
Okay. So the idea of a gazelle, I don't know who actually originated the idea, but basically, because I forget the guy's name, but it was basically a term that investors wanted to use to describe a company to separate what they called the mice of Main Street, which are the really small mom and pop businesses, and the big Goliaths like Amazon or IBM or something like that, right? So a gazelle is a company that is doing at least $1 million in revenue and grows 20% top line revenue year over year for 4 consecutive years. And if you can do that, you are considered a gazelle. Most small businesses don't grow. Now, in our industry, the industry on average is growing at a spend and budget rate is about 10% year over year. So if your business isn't growing 10%, you're falling behind. If you're growing 10% year over year, you're basically staying at pace with what's going on. So if you really want to know that you're actually growing, you want to grow somewhere in the 15 to 20% range year over year. Like I said, our clients grow an average about 18% year over year, which is significant. When I talk to people like Marcus Lemonis or Kevin O'Leary, who are not just, they're on TV, they're celebrities, but they're real investors. I mean, these guys are real entrepreneurs. They run real businesses. They invest in businesses, that they will tell you all day long that, you want to see growth in a company. Otherwise, you're stagnating or you're doing something wrong. And almost always, if you look at most MSPs, it's not because they're losing customers, which, a lot of businesses lose 25, 30% of their customers every year on average. Most MSPs are not losing that much. The problem is they're not adding any. They're adding maybe 2 to 4 clients a year. And so when you're doing that, you're barely growing. So that's what you want to do. You want to shoot for, if you want a kind of a guidepost of, hey, am I succeeding or not? If you're, again, doing 10%, you're standing still. If you're doing more than that, up to 20%, and if you grow 20%, you're considered a gazelle. And that's tough to do. That's not easy to do. And I don't know what percentage actually do that, because you'd have to track it over 4 years. And I don't know what that, there might be some data out there, but I do know that if you do that 4 years consecutive 20% year over year growth, you are considered a gazelle. Mark, is that cool? Do you think I nailed it, or?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. And then the idea of getting rid of all the ones. Okay. So the worst thing I can hear from a client is, I finally found a guy who can fill in the blank. And it's usually, I finally found a guy who can sell. I finally found a guy or a gal, who can book appointments. That's a good telemarketer. Or it could be, I finally found someone who's a good tech. See, when you're growing a business, you cannot depend on finding excellent people for every role in your company. They're hard to come by, and there's not that many of them walking around. So if your business depends on finding rock stars in every position, you've got a failed model, because they're just, again, you're not going to get that. You have to be able to grow a business with people who are good, not great, but good. And the way you do that is you build systems and processes. So instead of finding a guy who can sell, what I think is far more valuable to you is give me a sales system, give me a marketing process and a sales process where I can take a pretty good salesperson and make them productive. And I can do that consistently. And when you have that, now you've got something. That's the value, not this, I got to find a superstar who can come in and, renegade this, the A team, they can come in and turn around impossible situations because it's not sustainable. So when I say get rid of the ones, that's one area I mean, but I also mean get rid of any, like if you have one client that represents 50% of your revenue, you are not in a good place. I can't tell you how many times I get phone calls, emails that are a cry of desperation from somebody who, they lost that client because they merged or they got bought or they sold it or something. Right. And so, you want to make sure that you look around in your business and you say to yourself, where do I have my ones? And it's an ever evolving situation. Like you don't want to have just one marketing campaign that works. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember when fax broadcasting was like email marketing. If you guys remember, like everybody had, they did these fax broadcasts. We didn't do email broadcasts. And the first thing that happened is it got regulated. And if you remember, it was illegal to send a fax to anybody without written permission. And then a bunch of attorneys, these little attorney sweatshops popped up where they would just, they were just like little, like legal mills, right? Where people could say, oh, this person faxed me, and they would try and shake you down for some kind of minor penalty or something like that. And so overnight, if all you depended on was fax, and all you had were your client's fax numbers, like you didn't have their phone number, you didn't have their mailing address, you had no other way of communicating with them. When that fax law went into effect, I saw businesses go out of business overnight. So like if all you have are email addresses, for example, what happens if they opt out? What happens if their spam filter eats your email every time you try and send it? We all know that roughly only 20% of emails get opened, and the click-through rate's about 2%. So that means that even if we say the 20% open rate, that means 80% of the people you sent an email to ignored it or never even saw it. And so, you don't want to just do email. You want to do direct mail, telemarketing, social media, remarketing. You want to do all the things, because by doing that, if one of the pillars holding up the roof gets knocked out, the whole roof doesn't collapse, right? And so having one way of getting a customer, like referrals, it's not good, because you're waiting on them to give you a referral, right? Which doesn't always happen, and it's just one way of getting a customer. If you need sales really quick, what are you going to do? Go shake down your customers for referrals? I mean, that's not a lot of fun. So when you're thinking about growing your business, you don't want to have one good salesperson or one good marketing campaign or one good employee or one great client. You want to have multiple ways, because in multiple ways there's strength. Okay. Yep.
Great, thank you. Yes, very clear. And so, so we've got one more question here that came through the attendee chat from Ryan, and it's asking if there's a simple, quick demo of how you suggest using referral or trust marketing.
Well, when he's saying like I'm not sure I understand the question. How you suggest using referral or trust marketing? Okay, so trust-based marketing is. Instead, and I just did this at my boot camp, I talked about this in depth. Most companies, not just IT companies, but most businesses, if you look at their marketing, it's all about their stuff, right? So, we're a pool cleaning company, and we clean pools, and we build pools, and we repair pools. And so if you have any pool needs, call us. That's like the end of their marketing. And if it's an IT company, it's like, we do IT support. We do phone systems. If you have IT needs, call us. And the problem with that is it's focused on the stuff, and there's no differentiation. So even if I might need the stuff, you look like everybody else. So I don't know if I should call you or the next guy, because you all look the same. I don't know that you're any better than the guy I have right now. So I'm not going to fire him and hire you, because I don't even know if you're going to be any better. I just know you do the same stuff. Well, I got a guy who does stuff. I don't need stuff, right? So when you're doing that kind of marketing, you can't differentiate. You get shopped on price. You don't generate leads because you just blend into this sea of sameness. So what I suggest to my clients instead is you want to sell you first. You want to sell trust. Because first of all, if a prospect doesn't trust you, they're not going to buy no matter what. You can have the slickest advertising, but if there's something about you they don't trust, they're not buying. It's as simple as that. The other reason is most prospects do not have the ability, the education, the knowledge to differentiate you from competitors. I mean, they don't know. How do they know that, it's like if I go to it's kind of like if I go to, let's say a dentist, right? Now, I'm going to find a dentist I trust. Because if I'm going to have dental surgery, I'm not going to split test and go have the surgery at 5 different doctors and determine which one did the best thing, right? I got to pick the guy or the gal who I trust, and then I'm going to go there. So that if they came at me and said, here's the stuff we do, or here's how we do the technical procedure, that's not going to give me confidence that they're going to do a good job. They've got to sell me on why I should trust them versus every other dentist around. And when you're selling trust, see, price and fee resistance melts away, because if I trust you more than anybody else, I'm willing to pay a higher fee because I trust you, and I trust you're not gouging me. I trust you're not overcharging me. I trust that you're not recommending things I don't need, right? So again, a mistake a lot of MSPs, it's not just MSPs, it's, it's rampant in all businesses, is they sell stuff and they don't sell trust. And how you do that, Ryan, I think it's Ryan who asked, there's not a quick demo I can give you. I mean, you have to have things like, authoring books, public speaking, those kinds of things build trust. Having good reviews builds trust. Online reviews, testimonials builds trust. Guaranteeing your work builds trust. I did a full day presentation on this. So in order to do that, and Mark, now that I think about it, didn't I do a trust-based marketing for you guys? I think it was a while ago, but it's still relevant. Do you remember that?
I think so. I think that might have been the first one you did with us. So I'll tell you what, and everyone on the call, I'll dig up all the prior recordings and I'll include those in the follow-up email as well. So you have quick access to Robin's 3 or so presentations.
Yeah, because these are big topics. It's really hard to kind of give a quick example. I mean, even trying to nail it in an hour is tough, right? I mean, these are deep subjects. So, okay.
Great. Well, thank you. And so I know we are past time. So just to be respectful, I'm sure everyone has back-to-backs and all that fun stuff. So thanks everyone for coming. Thank you, Robin, for doing this. This was great. We'll get all these assets, all this material out to everybody. And thanks again. Thanks, Robin.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you guys very, very much. Hope it was beneficial to all of you. So cool.
All right. Take care, everybody.